Welcome to Crimson Guitars, welcome to my home studio, and welcome to the Great Guitar Build-Off 21. It's launching, it's happening, we are there. And as of today, you can go to greatguitarbuildoff.com and register your entry, download the information packs and everything, and, well, get started. Burn it. Today, the fun begins. Haha, yay! That's awesome, isn't it? Anyway, I'm going to start this off. The point of this video really is to talk about the scary part of building a guitar for the competition, which is taking good photographs and good video of it so that you run a greater chance of winning, because, you know, the judges like looking at pretty things that are well shot. And we thought we would put together a pack which is downloadable in the entry as well, and a bit of a cheat sheet for you to help with this process. And it is, I mean, when all is said and done with today's technology, it's not that hard. I'm going to start with a few frequently asked questions because they're frequently asked. Number one is, if I use a prefab neck, which competition should I enter? Because there are two, the kit build or the scratch build. Neck building is guitar building. Almost anybody and their grandmother can make a guitar body and make it functional. To make a neck, that's where it gets a little bit hairy, shall we say. So if you're using a prefab neck, then 100% you are in the kit build competition, no matter what you do with the body, to be honest. Do I have to use a kit from Crimson to participate? Absolutely not. This competition is now somewhat separate from Crimson. Crimson Guitars is a main sponsor, but we've separated Great Guitar Build-Off into a separate entity because it is bigger than Crimson, at least I hope it will be. It's about promoting guitar building to everybody, and it's about helping everybody learn how to do it, whether they use our kits or not. Of course, personally, because I'm biased, yes, use a Crimson kit. I would very much appreciate the support, and they are better than 95% of kits out there. I should probably say 100%, but you know, there are some pretty good kits out there as well. So yeah, 100%, you don't have to use a Crimson kit, it just would be nice. Do I have to have an Instagram account to enter? No, not really. I understand also the desire to have as few social media accounts as possible. It is a YouTube competition. Instagram is, for me, a valuable and interesting element of the whole thing, but you don't have to have an Instagram account to enter the competition. The video is it, basically, and the fact that you will email us good photographs of the guitar to show alongside the link of your video to the judges. Okay, can I enter if I have a criminal record? Well, of course. I guess, 100%, and yes. What date will the winners be announced? It's going to flash up on the screen there, because apparently when I announced the whole competition, I invented a whole day. So yeah, that's up on the screen there. Can I enter both the scratch build and the kit build? 100%. If you want to enter both builds, yes, of course you can. We have no issues with that. It would take 2 entrance fees because there's twice as much admin, of course. But yeah, why not? Twice the chance of winning, I suppose. Will I be disqualified for submitting more than 6 videos? No, we don't really want more than 6 videos, but if the heart of your project is the fact that you want to put out 10, then put out 10. We don't want more than 6, really. If you put 10 out or 20, or hey, I did a guitar series once with, I think, 60 plus videos. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. Then do that. We're not gonna watch every single one. The judges won't watch every single one. The judges are gonna end up watching your final main video, and that's that. Once you make the top public vote. Okay. Can I auction my guitar, or is this just for the invitational comp? Of course you can auction your guitar off for charity, and Great Guitar Build-Off and Crimson will support you in any way we can. This is at heart about giving money away, giving people chances that they don't necessarily have, and helping. So we're 100% not going to put a moratorium on something like that. Finally, can I use a pre-slotted fretboard and still enter the scratch competition? 100%. There are custom shops who, well, put it this way. Yes, I know how to hand cut a fretboard. Do I do it every time? Absolutely not. In fact, a good 90% of my builds, I will use either a miter slotting jig, which has a template which cuts them essentially for me. I'm just the power behind the saw, or the crosscut saw back at Crimson Guitars, the overhead saw with the same jig in there. Basically, the jig is doing all of the work. All you're doing is buying a pre-slotted fretboard, which is absolutely fine. I don't seem to be able to talk very well this morning. If you have any more questions, please drop us an email through Great Guitar Build-Off. Part of the reason for the fee is that we've had to take staff on just to deal with the influx of people interested in doing this. Anyway, I am going to now... I have got this beautiful document that our fantastic editor, Talitha, has put together for us. You will be able to download this through your entrance fee. Basically, when you enter the competition, you will get sent a pack, which will include this. And I'm going to read this for you now, and we will see if we learn something. How to film your guitar build for YouTube, and how to photograph your finished guitar. This is going to meander a little bit and occasionally go off topic, but you should be used to such digressions from Ben. I can't believe she made me read that. He digresses. The most important thing to get right when you are creating content for YouTube is the audio. Surprised? Think about it. If you are watching a video and the sound sucks, how long are you going to stick it out? You just aren't. Not very long at all. It's not too costly to get a decent quality microphone, whether a lapel mic like the one that Ben uses. I'm going to, from now on, put this into the first person because I'm reading this and this just feels weird. One does not like talking about oneself in the third person. Whether a lapel mic like the one that I use, or a shotgun microphone attached to your camera, do not ever rely on your inbuilt camera mic. The quality of the audio just does not do the video justice, unfortunately. You can also record your audio onto a smartphone or iPhone with a decently priced lapel mic. And we're talking 10 or 20 quid here. The difference is it puts the microphone right up near you and you get everything clearly, and it's well worth it. If you record the audio separately to the camera, there will be an issue with adding it to your video in post, i.e. you'll have to make sure that everything syncs up, and that's what these clapperboard things are for. But we will get to editing in a little while. The second most important thing is lighting. You want everything you're doing in front of the camera to be seen. Natural light is best, but at times inconsistent. Energy-efficient LED light panels are relatively inexpensive and are an easy way to light a small to medium-sized workshop. Not to mention, if you are in a small to medium-sized workshop working in the dark, your work is not going to be as good as if you can actually see what you're doing. These light panels are also extremely portable, so you can move them around as you work to make the most of the light. There's only so much that you can correct in the edit. Something that is too dark or too bright cannot be fixed very easily and still end up looking good. You don't have to spend a great deal of money to get started. Make the most out of what you have on hand. It's now easier than ever to create content with the smartphone in your hand. You can create, edit, and publish content on one device, but it does have its limitations. There are so many people on YouTube with videos on how to create content on a budget, and we're going to link these some of these in the description below, and you certainly should spend a little bit of time looking into this. Now, how should I film myself? First of all, don't stress. Everybody feels uncomfortable on camera in the beginning. Seriously, check out some of my early videos. The one where I denigrate all CNC machines, for example, is quite amusing. Don't put pressure on yourself and expect it to be perfect on the first take. You can do it as many times as you need until you feel comfortable. No one has to know how many clips you deleted before you get to the right one. I started 4 times this morning. It happens. If you are really uncomfortable being on camera, then you can create a video that only shows your hands and what you're working on. You can choose to do a voiceover explaining the process, or you can simply use the ambient noise in your workshop, the sounds of the machines and the sounds that the tools make as you work. Music is also an option, but be very careful about free music. YouTube itself has a great library that you can use for free, and again the link is in the description. One thing that I will personally add to this is that YouTube is it's international. It's massive, and because I talk in all of my videos and we haven't got closed captions and all that jazz, I'm actually limiting the views that I get to English-speaking people, whereas people like Duresta, etc., who never talk to camera, they are open to the entire planet. And the problem is I had to make the decision that I wanted to be more about teaching than about being infamous and making interesting videos. I want to teach people, and that involves talking, so I've done that. The technical stuff, ISO. Okay, now, an aside, I am 15 or 20 years into this thing, and I'm only now really actually getting to grips with this technical stuff. So if this scares you, please don't worry. Your camera, your phone, they have automatic settings. Use them, unless it's far too bright or far too dark, in which case you'll struggle, but use them. ISO. In the simplest terms, the higher the ISO, the brighter your video will be, and the lower the number, the darker your video will be. Use a high ISO setting, ISO 640, if you're filming inside your workshop without decent ambient light. Use a low ISO number if you're filming outside in bright daylight or indoors under bright artificial light. Okay, now 90% of the time when I am filming myself, I will have auto ISO set on the camera. Now, my camera is static, it's not moving around, and that tends to work, and it gives me a good middle ground from which Talitha can then go and edit. If you watch the most recent Nebula video, I had sunlight streaming in from this side, and half of the screen was just flooded with light and half of it was dark as a result. And I've gone and bought some triangular tent shade screen things to go outside there to stop that from happening again. On that day, I had to go and manually set the ISO settings. And I don't necessarily understand it instinctively. All I did was point the camera at what I wanted to point it at, and then change the ISO until it looked right, and then I left it at that. The aperture controls how much light reaches the image sensor. It may seem odd to start, but if you have any understanding of photography, then this will make sense. A high aperture number, for example f16, equals less light is entering into the camera, and a low aperture number equals more light hitting the image sensor. If you are in a low light environment, then use a lower aperture to allow more light into the camera. A low aperture allows you to have a larger depth of field, resulting in a blurred background, i.e. artful background. If you're outdoors or in a bright environment, then you want to use a high aperture setting, and this will allow you to get everything in your shot in focus. Again, if this scares you, just use the auto settings. Shutter speed. The rule of thumb for setting your shutter speed to film video is to set it at twice the frame rate. So if you're shooting at 24 frames per second, then your shutter speed should be 150. That's for a DSLR. The trifecta of camera settings, whether you're shooting video or taking photos of this, is 1, aperture, 2, ISO, 3, shutter speed. So shutter speed can be flexible. Once you set your aperture and adjust the ISO to suit, then the shutter can be set to whatever makes your image look best. Okay, All of that is scary. Use the automatic settings, please. It's easier. White balance and color temperature. Different light sources have different temperatures, and this is a big thing. The white balance setting tells your camera the cooler temperature of the light in your location. The camera will have presets to various lighting situations. There should be a sun icon for outdoors, a fluorescent bulb, and a tungsten bulb icon, etc. So try to match the white balance preset to the color of light. You can also manipulate the white balance to suit your needs. For example, my studio at Crimson Guitars had quite a cold feel to it because I had lots of square LED panels in it. The natural light was much more white and blue in there. I also had natural light panels. I would set the camera to 4,500 to 5,000K, which is at the warmer orange end of the spectrum, and then fine-tune the color correction in post. Okay. Honestly, use the automatic settings, ignore all of that, unless you really fancy getting into the deep end of this, in which case, more respect to you. More respect to you, more power to you. Okay, this is the fun bit. Framing. Your first shot needs to be the establishing shot. It's good for introductions, explaining things and showing an overview of your work. Essentially what you're looking at here is that. And when I'm talking to you guys, I will often have this shot. You can choose to keep your camera in this position and film everything from here, but it could get a little bit boring. You want to show a decent amount of your workspace, and at the same time, you don't want to cut the top of your head off. Background is important. A plain white wall works just as well as a busy background like mine. I mean, you get points for having loads and loads of planes in your background. Every maker knows this. Just make sure that it is all well lit. Maybe even wear a light colored t-shirt to make yourself stand out. Or you can be like Dan of Guns and Guitars and work outside. Natural light galore. But this is dependent on the weather. You will also have to contend with things like wind, noise, birds, random cars driving past, etc. This is also a great shot for the final stage of your video where you will want to show off your guitar and let your viewers see the whole thing. Shot 2, this is a slightly more intimate shot, medium close-up. Again, do not cut off the top of your head. This shot is good for explaining things, maybe telling your viewers a bit about yourself, your inspirations, etc. Here's a tip: think ahead and stand off to one side of the shot, and then you'll have space to put B-roll or still photos or something that you were talking about. I never do this. She's never asked me to do this. It's a good tip though. For example, I positioned Ben to the right of the screen so that I could pop up images of guitar designs in the Christmas giveaway video. Oh, that's what happens. So in post, you can take an establishing shot, zoom in a little bit, and move things off to the side so that you can manipulate things that way. There's a tiny amount of quality lost, but it's not noticeable once YouTube has done their compression, etc. Okay, downward angle. This is a great way to show your work with the shot concentrating on what your hands are doing. If your tripod is stable enough, you can put the camera higher and have a steeper downward angle, or a top-down shot. For example, this is great for time-lapse of the design process or repetitive and stationary work, such as installing frets, side dots, inlays, and electronics. Something that I have only recently started doing. I went and bought myself some of these clamps. Now my camera sits on this thing, and this fantastic clamp sits directly above my workbench on a piece of wood that is off this camera, and I can have this camera pointing directly down over my workbench. And you will have seen that in the new kit build. I think that was the first time I used that. And these things are about 20 quid on Amazon. What's this? Small rig. So yeah, very cool little item. In fact, I'm setting them up over several machines now, so I can do that. A low angle close-up. This is great for showing work in progress. Just be careful that your tripod is not touching your workbench, because the vibrations of you working can shake the camera. Another option is to lower the camera to just above the level of your workbench, but beware of crotch shots. this shed that I'm in has not got the most stable of floors. No, there we go. It's stable back there. I ended up buying I think 55 to 200 mil zoom lens so that I could move my camera further away from my bench and still have a very, very nice close-up. So yeah, if you're struggling with movement because of the floor that you're on, that is an option to sort that out. An expensive option, but it's a nice lens. I can use it to look at birds and things as well. Extreme close-up. This is great for fine detail work. If you know that what you're working on is fairly stable and kept in one area, like inlay work or wiring the electronics, go for a close-up. The camera has to be on a tripod and stable for a shot like this, and be aware of where your hands are so that you're not blocking the viewer from seeing what you're doing. I do that to Talitha every now and then. I'll have a close-up and then I will get in the way of it. Again, if you're using, for example, a 50mm prime lens, your camera will have to be very, very, very close into what you're doing in order to get a good shot. I use zoom lenses so that the camera can be further away. You don't get the best quality shot because your zoom lens has multiple pieces of glass in between the image and the viewer. Next, we'll talk about the shot sequence. All the previous shot examples were taken from the Nebula 2 build and were filmed at different stages of the build, but they could all be part of the same shot sequence. You can plan your video in this way. Start with the introductory shot, shot 1, explain what you're going to do, shot 2, and show your work, getting progressively closer in a series of shots, 3 to 5. These two shots are of the same process, showing me at the Triton sander, establishing shot and the cutting to a closer over the shoulder shot, now to show what I'm doing. Ending with a long shot of me going back to my workbench. The end of the process and moving on to the next job. You're telling a story with what you're doing. You bring the people in, you take them back out, and then you move on to the next thing. I do a lot of this instinctively. It just is how I do. But there are rules. And in the end, it is all about the story. If all you take out of this entire thing is one bit of information, it's tell a story with what you're doing, and you will be all right. Have fun, be creative within the bounds of your particular workshop environment. Don't be discouraged if you're working under space restrictions, as these can often lead to incredibly creative solutions. My workshop is set up. My bench is not up against a wall because I film all the time. Most people have a small garage and their workbench is up against a wall, so they'll have side shots or overhead shots, etc. And it just is the way it is. Yeah, there we go. Okay, we'll move on to editing your video. There are a lot of good editing programs out there, and even more video tutorials on how to use them. We currently use Premiere Pro, but have used DaVinci Resolve, which is free. Lightworks, which is a monthly subscription. I personally, Ben, love Lightworks. I really enjoyed Lightworks. Relatively inexpensive, and I just enjoyed that a lot. And Final Cut in the past. We also use the free Adobe Rush app on the iPhone to edit for Instagram TV and social media videos. And this is a great option if you're going to film your videos just using your phone. And I say just using your phone because your phone is an absolutely valid use of, it works perfectly. Adam Savage, for the last year during lockdown, he's filmed everything on his iPhone. And arguably it's made his videos better, more personal. So yeah. The inbuilt video editing software for Mac and PC are very good and very user-friendly for those of you who are just starting out in video production. Storyline. Pre-plan your videos. Seriously, pre-plan your videos. If you're going to do more than one video, make sure that you split your guitar build into logical tasks. For example, video 1 is a guitar design, laying out and preparing your materials, cutting out the body, neck, and other parts. A good place to end this episode would be a glue-up, because these need time to cure, such as book matching a body, body and top, multi-laminate neck, etc. In video 2, you can concentrate on the neck construction, shape the neck, attach the fretboard and radius, fretboard inlay, and installing the frets. Video 3 can be all about the body. In video 4, bring the body and neck together and work on the finish. 5 would be installing hardware and electronics. And then finally in video 6, demo the guitar. Or if you're me, it's 16 videos, and all of these rules go out of the window. It is a very, very good point, though. I never used to plan my videos. I would just film as much as I could, port the information over to the editor, and make them figure it out. In recent months, though, I have started writing down a basic storyline. What do I need to achieve? What would look good in a video? How much can I do in the sort of 2 or 3 days that I have per video? And yeah, I don't want to leave people bored, but I also want to achieve stuff. And yeah, write it all down, think about what you would like to see, and then make it happen. Okay, starting your edit. Now that you've captured some video, make sure you don't lose it. Data wrangling is very, very important. If you're filming with a DSLR camera straight to an SD card, make sure you copy the footage as soon as possible. Arrange your folders and label them logically. For example, my current project, the Nebula 2, is arranged as such. Main project folder containing the default project files that Premiere creates, a folder for assets such as photographs, a folder for audio files, and a folder for footage. The footage folder is then split into days or episodes. Keeping everything you think you will need for your video in one location will make your edit run much more smoothly. We may be overly cautious, but have lost footage in the past. That's very, very frustrating. It's a good idea to have an external hard drive and back up your footage and editing project as you go. Also, depending on the frame rate and aspect ratio you choose, your footage can take up a lot of memory. One day of filming can be anywhere from 20 to 60 gigabytes of video. Yeah. And again, we've got more links to tutorials that we suggest you should check out there. Editing terminology: cut, trim, transition, fade, and wipe. Let's see if you manage to edit all of those in. This is difficult. We've been editing video for so long that most of what we do is automatic. Trying to explain is pretty hard. It's much easier to show. I recommend searching YouTube for tutorial videos about the editing software that you are going to use for a technical rundown of what you need to know. Editing is also about feel and pace. Cutting or trimming a video clip at the right time so that a sequence flows. This is much more difficult to teach, but we spend as people a huge amount of our time watching other people on video, and you get to know what you enjoy and what you want to see. In fact, in the comments below, let me know what you think of our videos and what you'd like to see us change about how we do things. For example, I talk far too much, and there's not quite as much building as there could be. So we're moving towards a point where I don't talk while I'm doing stuff. I talk before or after, and that allows Talitha, my editor, to put that audio over footage of me doing stuff, and hopefully they sync together quite nicely. But it also keeps things a little bit less boring. Moving on to photographing your guitar. Natural light is your best friend. Try to photograph your guitar outside, but not in direct sunlight. Overcast days are your friend. A slightly overcast day is best, or a shady spot. If you have a large window that lets in a lot of light indoors and you have enough space to lay the guitar out and you're able to get the whole instrument in shot, then this is ideal. These were taken many, many, many years ago in one of my first workshops. That's insane. Outside, in direct sunlight, a bit bright. Too sunny, harsh shadows. We've got an audience, that's Bud and Jasper. Bud is sadly no longer with us, but Jasper is, up there. Shady spot, absolutely perfect. How best to frame your guitar? Try to fit the full guitar in the frame, front and back, of course. Try framing your guitar diagonally, especially if you have an interesting background, or position it in a guitar case. We want to see as much as possible from as many angles as possible so that we can judge, properly. Show us a detailed view of the front and the back of your guitar. The instrument that we're looking at here was built, I think, in 2005, a long, long, long time ago. And I was nowhere near the luthier that I am today. And I would often use an angled shot to hide something I didn't particularly want to show off. And that is a valid use of camera trickery. Show your headstock, front and back. Oh, there we go. 2005, this one. May 2005. Take shots in interesting angles to show off the hardware and specific details like carved tops, comfort carves on the back, the finish, inlays. And then finally, edit your photos. Color correct them to make your guitar look at its best. But don't go crazy with filters to make it look fake or overworked. It's very, very easy to overdo this. Sometimes all you need to do is boost the exposure a little bit and the contrast. Make the shadows a little darker to sharpen any detail and increase the saturation a touch to make your colors really pop. Ideally, you can fully show your guitar in 10 to 12 good photographs. I feel like this may have been a massive dump of information for you. Please enter the competition, download this document and slowly go over the bits that you need to, as and when you need to look at them. Do not let this frighten you. It's a massive, massive subject. There are multiple books on it, multiple videos on it. You need to know the basics in order to get something that helps your chances to win the competition. Anyway, if there is anything that we have missed, anything that you would like to see, any questions you have on this, please put them in the comments below. We will answer. This competition is officially started. It is going to be incredible. I cannot wait to see what happens. And I'm so excited. Thank you for your support. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.